for us, I would sort of start with our tribe of people generally are going to be people that are active. And that doesn't mean elite athletes. That doesn't mean world class. It just means you appreciate a dog walk, a hike, a run, a swim sometimes, gravel bike. So generally speaking, there are quite a few of our clients and the referrals we get and the connections we make that are in that same tribe. And it's a big competitive industry here in Boulder to be in real estate. And we recognize that we can't work with everyone and we don't want to work with everyone. And I think that for us, we generally do really well with people that we click with, and life's too short to work with people you don't. So there's definitely that with our business. We work with a lot of active people. We also, because the content we create, the podcast is called Love Where You Live, and the interviewees, the conversations we have, they're with people that are often Olympians, but also just runners that own businesses or any of that. So I think that for sure, yeah, we do draw in those people that love to be outdoors and enjoy the activity that our county and our city offer.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Active Towns channel. My name is John Simmerman, and that is Michael Lovato from Boulder, Colorado, a former professional triathlete and also multiple-time winner of the Ironman distance triathlons in various locations around the world. And we're going to be talking about living in Boulder and why it is the quintessential active town. But before we do that, I just want to say, if you're enjoying this content here on the Active Towns channel, please consider supporting my efforts by becoming an Active Towns ambassador. Super easy to do. Just click down below on the join button, as well as head on over to activetowns.org and click on the support tab at the top of the page. There's several different options, including becoming a Patreon supporter. Okay, let's get right to it with Michael Lovato. Michael Lovato, thank you so much for joining me on the Active Towns podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Welcome. It's been a while of making this happen. So
yes,
super stoked.
Thank you for your patience.
Oh, no worries.
Officially and in front of everyone, thank you for bearing with my flakiness. That's what it ended up being. So I do appreciate that.
Well, I'm super chill about all these kinds of things. This is really just meant to be a nice, relaxing conversation. So we're going to just dive in and do a little bit about that. But what I love having my guests do is just say a few words about who the heck Michael Lovato actually is. Please share.
Yes. Oh, that's a good way to start. I mean, who am I? I guess, I'm a guy that I've been living in Boulder. We'll start this way. I've been living in Boulder since 2001, so going on 24 years. I moved here by way of Austin, Texas. I was there for almost a decade, and I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. That's my hometown, I guess you would say. And I'm an active guy. Good to be on an Active Towns podcast. And I'm currently a father, husband, try to be an athlete, and I'm a real estate agent by profession. So that's me in a quick nutshell, which not everything's quick with me, John. Sometimes I have long answers.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And we obviously have a whole bunch of crossover. I, of course, used to live in Boulder, Colorado. Boulder is the quintessential active town. I like to say that. And in fact, my nonprofit that I founded, Advocates for Healthy Communities, is really based in Boulder. Most of my board of directors are there in Boulder, so I try to spend as much time there. And I also now live in Austin, Texas. You were here for undergrad, I think, yes?
I did, yes. Yeah. That's correct, yeah.
Fantastic.
Back in the 90s.
In fact, I think you probably left here right about the time I was moving to Boulder, which was in 1996.
Yeah, I did. I finished up my school in 96, came up to Boulder as well in that same summer I was here. But then I went back for a couple more years to be in in Austin before I came here.
Oh, okay. Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. And then we also spent some time overlapping in Kona, because after my 10 years in Boulder, I moved to Hawaii. And so I was living on the Big Island and living in Kona for 10 years. And so I was very much a part of the World Championships there and that race, and then putting on other types of events there based in Kona. So I spent a lot of time seeing you and Amanda, and other folks from Boulder tripping into town to compete in the event there. And we'll talk a little bit about your triathlon history and all that kind of stuff. But I want to just kind of share one memory that is sort of a lasting memory of the two of you, you and Amanda. And that's this classic photo right here of the two of you.
Yeah. Yes. That's us. How funny.
And this is like, I think circa 2012, perhaps, this particular photo?
I would guess that's exactly right. Yeah, 2012.
Yeah. Which is, I recall, this was probably your final year as a pro. Racing was in 2012. Is that about right?
Well, that was Amanda's final year as a pro. It should have been my final year. I raced in 13. Or arguably we both should have skipped that year. But that photo is on Eagle Trail here in Boulder, about 1.4 miles from where I'm sitting right now. And we did that photo. That was a photo shoot. We don't usually run around our race kits. Amanda looks incredible in hers, but we were doing a little photo shoot for the brands and the sponsors at that time. And so there we were.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why this is brings a smile to my face is that I think it was in 2012, I was racing the Boulder Backroads Marathon right there in that same neck of the woods. It starts at the res and goes down on the roads there. And I started off my first mile with Amanda and Darren DeRook. And we're just like chatting away, having fun and everything. And I'm like, looking at my time and looking at our time as we're like running and chatting. And I'm like, if I try to keep up with you two, I'm going to bury myself. This is like the first mile of the marathon. So anyways, I excused myself and said, okay, guys, I'll see you later. And I know that it was 2012 because I was spending a lot of time in Boulder. I was actually training, doing a whole bunch of events throughout that summer, including I raced Coeur d'Alene that year, and then I also raced Kona that year. And so it was like, okay, I can kind of put this into that time frame. It was about 2012. It was good stuff. So yeah, it brings back good memories. Do you look back on that, your professional career, with a great deal of sense of accomplishment? I mean, when I look back at your stats and everything, I count almost 10, maybe 10 or more top 3 finishes at the Ironman distance level, and then who knows how many at the 70.3 level.
Well, that's something I should go back and count as well. I have all the races chronological order in my brain, remembering back, and a lot of fond memories. But I wouldn't have thought of it that way. I do look back with a great sense of accomplishment. It was a good career. It was a hard way to earn some dollars, but it was formative in so many ways. So when you can look back I'm almost 52, and I can look back and say, I started the sport in 1992. The number of things that it gave me, in addition to sort of those little moments of glory and satisfaction, I met Amanda at a triathlon. I moved to Boulder because of triathlon. I mean, this is just a shortcut to where we are, but I forged a lot of relationships that are currently central in my life and my business life through triathlon. Work ethic, discipline, everything that came from that time as not just a professional Ironman athlete or triathlete, but just as an amateur. And it is so absolutely, I look back with fond memories and gratitude for those years.
Yeah. And you mentioned a little bit about triathlon being central to that gravitation, that pull that Boulder tends to have of bringing people in, and that was, to be quite frank, that's what brought me to Boulder as well. At the time, in 1995, I was living in Chicago and discovered the sport of triathlon and sort of went in with both feet and really dove deep into it. And I was like, okay, Chicago's cool. I'm enjoying this, but I really want to be someplace a little hipper, a little cooler when it comes to training in this new sport that I just kind of discovered as an age grouper. And I'm like, yeah, Boulder. It was either San Diego or Boulder.
Yeah,
And I think
sounds familiar.
You and Amanda went through that same sort of process of is it going to be sort of the San Diego, the North County beaches like Encinitas and Carlsbad and those areas, or is it going to be Boulder? And of course, long story short, you decided on Boulder, and it went from there.
We did. And yeah, just funny enough to look at the crossover, I was in 1995, I raced the Chicago Triathlon. It was a age group national championships. I was there at that big, huge event, got absolutely throttled.
Yeah,
But
I had three flats during that race, by the way. Yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about Mrs. T's, the one
yeah,
the
Mrs.
Olympic
T.
distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, that brings back memories. Mrs. T's.
Yeah. I have some funny memories of that exact race where you think, wow, the technology, when you talk about where we've come to and where we started, and this was a decade into the sport, but but no, it's so we, yeah, and John, you're spot on. We in 96 I came here because I was just finishing my college degree and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I want to go to Boulder." My good friend I grew up with went to school here and I went to Texas, so we wanted to sync up and spend a summer together. Another friend that went to University of New Mexico. We all converged here and I had this incredible introduction to Boulder where I thought this is absolutely heaven. All of those sport greats were at Scott Carpenter Pool, swimming masters in the morning, and I was rubbing elbows with my heroes, and sort of that basically got me hooked. It took me 5 years to get back here due to other things going on, but Amanda and I, we were looking at where do we move. I was in Austin, she was in Baltimore. We were looking at being together and we had this long distance relationship for 2 years and we thought at some point we're either going to have to split up or we're going to have to get somewhere together, and she didn't feel like Baltimore was for me and I realized probably Austin wasn't for her, so she said let's go to San Diego, I love it there, and spend a couple weeks, and I said great, and let's go to Boulder, I love it there, and spend a couple weeks. And I don't think we could have gone wrong, right? I think that North County, San Diego area is still a special spot in our hearts for visits. And then, yeah, but we came here because we thought this is a smaller community. It's a little bit more of a small town vibe versus that busyness of that area in Encinitas, San Diego. And we came here end of 2001 and never looked back.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny too because your anniversary date is New Year's Eve, and so the classic story that I also remember from 2013 in Triathlete magazine, which again features that photo that we saw earlier. Here is about this, and it talks about that love story. And what I love about your love story that you and Amanda have is, yes, triathlon was a big part of that. Boulder ended up being a big part of it. And you're also a content creator. You host a podcast and you have a YouTube channel. And what I love about your story and how it intermingles and all of that with triathlon and also the city of Boulder, you guys summarized in a beautiful episode for the very first episode of your podcast. And you talked about that history and you talked about those early days of struggling as, young pro triathletes trying to make ends meet in a city that's very, very expensive for the artist types and the athlete types that tend to gravitate towards the city. Talk a little bit about those early days, and I'll make sure we include a link to that first episode that you and Amanda recorded, because I think it's a beautiful, beautiful story.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. And we shared our story. We did a quicker version of it. And I mean, the early days for us, it was, mind you, in the fall of 2021, the 9/11 attacks had just happened and our country was in a spot of bother as we get into every now and then. And we had, we were on our scouting trip, actually. We were here staying at my aunt and uncle's in Aurora for some of that time and spending these 3 weeks in Boulder in September of 2020, or sorry, 2001. And it was really it was hard because I grew up at altitude and Amanda did not. And so she understood very little about how that affects you. And I understood that it was the norm. And so we came and we had a very beautiful introduction, but because I would say that it was also rocky in that first 3 weeks, and we were sleeping on the floor of a friend's house that, on a mattress. And because of that, I think it really actually is sort of foreshadowing for the ups and downs that we faced. It was like all this beauty, all this opportunity, all this richness of triathlon and outdoor and activity and just everything we wanted to start our life together. But also, as you said, a place that we were like, how can you afford to live here? How could you rent? How could you buy? And so that shock, and then an economy where there were no jobs, we were trying to make it. And I think of this very fondly because as you look back, and I think a lot of people can look back on hard times and say, "Oh, wasn't that tough?" I know that we were building bricks in the foundation of our relationship that has weathered a lot in 26 years. And so we struggled. I was initially, it was also fun, but I struggled to make a commitment to a job. So I was trying to be a pro triathlete, making very little money. I mean, hundreds of dollars that year in 2002. But I was tutoring Spanish at the University of Colorado, and that was really fun. And I was working at a Fleet Feet running store with an amazing group of people, and that was kind of it. I had those two jobs. And then Amanda, they had just opened Title IX, the first time they had a storefront. It's an online retailer, but at the time they were brand new. She worked for them, and we were just out there, trying to work and make a couple bucks and exercising a bunch. And we had two dogs. And so it's funny because it comes back and you see these cyclical moments where we run into some of these people, but we rented the most incredible piece of property for $1,100 a month. It was an acre of land in the center of Boulder on Bluff Street. And it was a 1,000 square foot farmhouse that was built early 1900s that had nothing. It had a little bit of heat. It had really, really pretty shoddy, but it was on this magical little undeveloped acre in Boulder, which little did we know, well, that's going to go for millions and they're going to build a bunch of houses. But that first introduction was so special because we were downtown, we were center of everything, we were riding and running from the house, we were walking our dogs all the time, and we were just in this really, again, magical introduction to this very unique community.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And since you and Amanda are real estate people, it was neat to see in that story arc of the places, telling your story about your time in Boulder, is that the locations that you lived were what was like the key thread that went through there, and that was kind of cool. And I of course recognize all the places that you were talking about and reminiscing over, and you just mentioned Bluff Street there, and of course that's where I saw you just a few months ago last summer. You guys had a couple properties listed right on Bluff Street, which I was staying with my dear friends who live up on Panorama, just above that property. So it was really kind of cool. You have started a family, of course, more than started. It's full blown at this point. We've got the dog, we've got the pony, and we've got the two kids. Yeah, I mean, it's the part of this story is, of course, the love story, but it is, getting through those hard times, finding a way to actually make it in a very, very difficult market to quote unquote make it in, and be able to thrive. And this photo also brings a huge smile to my face because I grew up on a ranch in Northern California, and I had horses. I grew up with sheep and cattle and all that. So the rural side of the life and the experience that you guys have, is also quite familiar and attractive for me as well. And I know the pony doesn't stay at your house. It has a home where it is housed at. Is that correct?
At this point, yeah, she does. She does board for now. We did buy a property that has 3.5 acres of space and a backyard, a front yard, and then a pasture that we've put a lot of time and money into to get it ready. Now, as soon as we have the structure, a shelter, she'll be able to move in there. And apparently, she needs a friend. You would know this. All these horse people tell you they can't live alone, and I think that's just really a good ploy to get more horses. But
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
it's
We always had at
Googleable, it's
least
probably
two.
true.
We always had at least two horses. Yes, absolutely.
Good to know.
Yes.
Verified. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, that picture is awesome. I mean, we definitely realized after we moved here for one reason, we moved here to be together. And that was like, okay, number one. Number two was very close behind that was it was a suitable place to do triathlon. But I think when we first moved here, we thought we might not be here that long. And then we realized as we were here long enough that this is an exceptional place to raise children. And then when we got to that point in our journey, it was evident that we'd made a great choice. And we do have our little boy Zane and our beautiful daughter Valentine. That picture of the horse was Marilyn Monroe. And then Rocco is our little Jack Russell. And we do have an addition, Cricket. She's a whippet. And then we have Bella, our cat. And then if I talk about the rest of the animals, I have to mention that we have 7 chickens that are full-grown hens, and we just got 4 baby chicks to add to the flock. So
Fantastic. Yeah. So you'll appreciate this since you have your time here in Austin as well. Is that during the pandemic we had a flock of hens here as well. So we had our 6 backyard chickens here, and we just live in the downtown area, Zilker Park neighborhood. So we're walking distance to Barton Springs Pool and the Zilker Park and all that. And so we had our delightful little flock of chickens that they all died of natural causes eventually, which tends to happen and all that. But
that does happen.
It's
yeah.
good stuff.
Oh, nice.
So we alluded to it earlier about that draw that brings people in, and you guys even mentioned, if not in that particular episode, then you mention it in another episode of Niwat's curse, and Chief Niwat famously or infamously had talked about how that the thing that makes Boulder so special and attracts people in is kind of the thing that ends up stressing and challenging the area. Why don't you explain a little bit more eloquently, Chief Niwat's curse and what he had said or supposedly said? Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, good intro, John. And I think we always heard the curse initially was that if you came here, Chief Niwat means left hand. So that's obviously around this whole area, left hand canyon, left hand brewery, left hand water. Left hand is just on and throughout the community. But Chief Niwat, so our original version that we heard was just that, hey, once you come to the Boulder Valley and see this beautiful place, you'll never be happy anywhere else. And you'll always go away if you want to, but you come back and you'll always be drawn back. And so our sort of blanket version of that was, oh, how many people we've seen this to be true, where you try and leave, you can't, you always think about it's always on your heart. And so the other side of that, if you really kind of dig into what he said, was also that love for this valley would be its ultimate undoing, and that we would exhaust the resources, probably assuming way back in his day, and you'd burn it out and kind of use it up, and it wouldn't be as nice. And I think we've luckily got, I think, the people in this community that have gotten behind some lawmaking and some policy to preserve it fairly well, and to do, I think, if I'm putting my opinion, a pretty good job of putting a barrier around Boulder so that it isn't consumed by the Denver suburbs. It comes darn close, but we do have that. And so from my standpoint, the curse, really, I like to look at the nice part, which is it's such a special place where we live that when you go other places, even if you are happy and even if you do love it where you are, you're always going to still have that fondness and that memory of the special place that was your home in Boulder.
Yeah, yeah, and of course you're referring to the boundary line that the city leaders sort of drew around Boulder back in, I believe it was the 1950s, and really sort of imagined we need to preserve this open space around, and it's one of the things that has really helped preserve a big part of what makes Boulder so incredibly special. But at the same time, it's also one of the constraining factors of the city itself, and one of the reasons why it is so expensive to live there, because it does drive prices up in the sense that compared to some of the other communities nearby that were just kind of had the unlimited ability to expand and continually to have that horizontal expansion and annex more and more land in, there's that pressure and tension there. And we can talk a little bit more about that in terms of, the challenges that go along with that. But, we're looking at a population of only 100,000 people. I think
that's right.
Current count is just around 106,000 total people. I can't remember the exact number of square miles. Can you recall what that is?
It's like something like 25. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say
Pretty
like
small.
26 or 25 square miles. So, I mean, it's not a very big place. I mean, that's the wonderful thing about the place too, is especially, and I've got several friends that have grown up as children right there in Boulder, and they remember of what it was like as a kid to be able to roam and be able to get on their bike and be able to get to anywhere you need to get to. Plus the bus system there is really, really quite good and quite convenient. And so, one of the folks that I've interviewed, she remembers just getting on the bus and being able to go, wherever she needed to go. So it's a really special place in that. And one of the things from an active towns perspective that I talk about is it has a very unique, and I had mentioned it earlier, it's the quintessential active town. There is a culture of activity that really permeates throughout the entire area. And you have a lot of like-minded people that are choosing to move there because it supports an active lifestyle. I'm sure you and Amanda brush up against that all the time, in the business with Lovato Properties, of people wanting to come to Boulder because of that lifestyle, because of the access to nature, because of the access to the trails, because of the culture of activity. Talk a little bit about that, because I know that that's part of the special sauce that makes it special, but it's also part of the special sauce that makes your business and, in representing both buyers and sellers, that's part of it too.
Yes. Hey, yeah, great question. I mean, great point there. It's for us, I would sort of start with our tribe of people generally are going to be people that are active. And that doesn't mean elite athletes. It doesn't mean world class. It just means you appreciate a dog walk, a hike, a run, a swim, sometimes gravel bike. So generally speaking, there are quite a few of our clients and the referrals we get and the connections we make that are in that same tribe. And it's a big competitive industry here in Boulder to be in real estate. And we recognize that we can't work with everyone and we don't want to work with everyone. And I think that for us, we generally do really well with people that we click with, and life's too short with people too short to work with people you don't. So there's definitely that with our business. We work with a lot of active people. We also, because the content we create, the podcast is called Love Where You Live, and the interviewees, the conversations we have, they're with people that are often Olympians, but also just runners that own businesses or any of that. So I think that for sure, yeah, we do draw in those people that love to be outdoors and enjoy the activity that our county and our city offer. So without a doubt, and it's just, if you're not into that, like if that isn't your thing, if being outdoors is not your main priority, that we still see people that want to be here because of the smaller town, the under 106,000 or less, also the beauty. So even if you don't like going into the mountains, a lot of people like to see them, and we have very beautiful scenery. And then you just have others, like I get so slanted on people are all wanting to be outside and exercise or enjoy the outdoors, that I forget that there's this whole group of people that come here because we have excellence all around in other ways, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, and I did pull up the landing page here for your podcast, and this is on Buzzsprout.com, the landing page for Buzzsprout. Do you have an actual website for the podcast, or is this a good place for folks to land on?
I mean, I would just go to, I sort of steer people. We have it on our YouTube, which we're kind of trying to freshen up the look of the podcast there. But ultimately, really, to find it, I would just go wherever you download podcasts. So I don't have a site. Maybe I should. But if you want to find the podcast, you put Love Where You Live, Boulder County. If you listen on Spotify or iTunes or Amazon or any of the other millions that are out there, Buzzsprout links it to all of that. So
Right. And in fact, let's pull up the YouTube version of this as well, because I think that's a good thing since we're here on YouTube. I mean, we got to give YouTube some love here. And so, so here's your podcast version. You've got two YouTubes, and so we'll take a look at the Lovato Properties YouTube as well. But we do have this one here, which has quite a few more videos on it, 111 videos, and this is where the podcast lives, out on YouTube, which is fantastic. And if you click on the videos here, you can see some really cool stuff. And I just watched this video here, the pros and cons of living in downtown Boulder. And that was a lot of fun to see that you were producing some of that content as well. It was good to see you. Now, did you film that yourself, or did you have a camera operator filming you as you were walking down Pearl?
Yeah, I've got a videographer. I've got an expert. That's one of those it's who, not how, right? There's a great book out there that when I read that, I immediately realized that I don't need to be an expert in those areas. So, I hired Courtney to do that. But I create the content. She and I collaborate, but it's my sort of brain and her creativity. But our YouTube, like the reason for the YouTube, like I'm actually doing a bunch. We're hitting the whole county. We're trying to do deep dives into each neighborhood in Boulder, deep dives into what it's like to live here. We basically think about the questions that people ask us. Hey, what school district should I be in? What's the best elementary? What do you have here for middle school, high school, neighborhoods, parks, all the stuff? And how do I afford Boulder if I can't live here, where's the best place, or if I've got a ton of money, or if I want to be by the mountain. So the goal of this channel is to really just answer those questions that our people have asked us and that we have conversations about all the time. And then naturally, like the podcast, which is super fun because the podcast is also, and what I'm cleaning up is to have sometimes I have doubles. And so it's an audio only on YouTube and then a video version that takes a little cleaning up. But as we get that going, really, what's cool is you can hear the perspective of someone else, and we try and ask, what are the drawbacks as well? We try and really get a well-rounded, so it's not just sugarcoating. I have a lot of people that say, these are my issues, or this is what it was like and now it's not, or this is what I see as a drawback. But it's really fun, and John, like, how cool it is with this platform is you'll hear from people that you just otherwise don't know, and reaching out from California. Hey, I'm thinking about moving there. I heard your podcast. I love the insights and the conversations. So it's really been a fun, both the YouTube channel and of course the podcast.
Yeah, the audio only podcast. Fantastic. And again, so we do have the two channels. This is the channel Lovato Properties. And so you've got 5 videos out there already. I subscribed. I think I'm the first subscriber to this brand new channel.
Thank you.
You are quite welcome. Looking forward to seeing more and more content, and we can already see the gist of what some of these things are. Is doing some more deep dive stuff into some specifics of around the area. So that's really cool, exciting to see, and yeah, I love it. It's good stuff.
Yeah, that one. I mean, to be fair, that one too. And this is kind of like the experts. I have a coach. I have a business coach, and we kind of dive in a lot to how video can help us with our business. And that one, all those 5 properties are tours of homes specifically. And so ultimately, when we looked at mashing them together, I wanted to put it all on the same page. But apparently, from a standpoint of expertise, you should keep the showing the listings that we're actually trying to help people sell on a separate channel. So
that's good. That's actually pretty good advice too. And one of the things that I learned sort of early on with the Active Towns channel here is it's not the greatest idea to mash together profile videos of various lengths with long form podcast episodes. But I was too far down the road, and I'm up over 500 videos at this point. So I'm like, okay, no, I'm keeping them together. So whatever. I'm just dealing with it. Let's pop on over to the website here. So Lovato Properties, here you guys are. You've got your stuff going on. You've got some featured listings here. And again, introduction of the family. And again, that beautiful photograph that we have of the family. Refresh my memory. It was Amanda that got into real estate first. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah. She was, I mean, it was like, I think 2006, well, 2005, we'd been here 4 years and she was in one of her early moments of, I don't want to do this for a living anymore. Like, I'd like to get a career. And I never forget, 2005, she said, Michael, let's go to this class. It's a free class on how to do loan origination or help people get residential mortgages. And it was advertised in the Daily Camera. So we zipped out there to take the class. And immediately, day one, she's like, I don't like this. It's too many numbers. And I was the opposite. I thought this is kind of fun. We started doing it, and so she immediately jumped out. I started doing as a supplement to the income. I started learning the business. Now this was all pre financial crisis, pre crash, led by housing and led by a lot of issues in '07. And so I mentioned that because we were unregulated. I got taught. I started doing a little bit of mortgage origination, and she immediately said, "You know what? I'm going to get my license." And she went in to get her real estate license, and then both of us did those jobs in '06, '07, '08, really part time, very part time, because we got again drawn back and started having more success in our career as triathletes. So put that on the shelf until our daughter was born, and every sponsor that Amanda had dropped her. They said, "Oh, you're pregnant? Well, you're." These were different times. They were just like, "See you later. You're out." And she said, "Well, that's fine. I'm done. I'll move on."
Yeah, yeah. And on the Boulder about Boulder page on the website, this kind of encapsulate what you were saying earlier is that Boulder is home to a lot of different people. It's not just the athletes, although they're leading the list here, but also the active parents and education and many, many other things. Technology, plenty of technology folks in the city. It really is an attractor to people who really, I think, appreciate a high quality of life, and it really does, support that. When you guys have been, on this, obviously, so you talked a little bit about the real estate crash of 2008 and going into that, and then the rebound, and really Boulder just kind of skyrocketing in terms of values. What has that meant for you guys from a business perspective? And because I know that there's probably plenty of people who would love to make Boulder their home, including many triathletes.
Yes.
And sometimes that's a hard reality to understand that it's not going to be possible for everybody. Talk a little bit about how you guys handle that, because I'm sure, it might be a little bit of having a hard discussion with maybe even some friends or family that want to live there, but the realities are kind of challenging. And when you're looking at, price tags of, 1.1 and 1.3 on up $1 million properties.
That's a great question, and I think the drive. So first off, in a real quick mention, at the time of recording this podcast, now is the best time to buy in Boulder. If you are actually looking, the best time I've seen in a long time. That doesn't mean the prices are affordable for everyone, but we have currently this week we have 4.5 months of inventory, which is a huge amount of inventory for Boulder. We haven't had that in a long time. And so that also means a lot of people that are buying right now are getting great prices on the properties. This is a very unique time, but that's just more specifically to our current market. Someone might be listening to this in a year or two and it's different. So if I just address that, I think why I also started the YouTube video series is if you come here and you say, I really want to be in this area, well, Boulder is amazing. And the closer you are to the epicenter, to whatever you call that center of Boulder, be it Pearl Street or Chautauqua or the Flatirons or Sanitas, it's more, the more expensive it is. And so if I'm looking at myself 25 years ago and saying I'm a starving triathlete, I don't have a lot of money, but I want to be in the epicenter, the advice that I would give and I would happily receive back then is just start to widen the search, just increase that diameter of acceptability. And don't be hooked on having to ride a cruiser bike to Foolish Craig's or, Ozo or Boxcar. Like, don't get stuck on that. Get stuck on buying property, investing in Boulder County real estate, go to Longmont, go to Lafayette, go to Louisville if you can afford that one still, but look at the areas that are still absolutely incredible. And this is why we're doing this series is what is it like to live in Longmont? Well, there's a lot of incredible stuff there. And guess what? Worst case scenario, 25-minute drive to some of the amenities that you want in Boulder, be it a pool or a training group or a track. And so I think for us, we really say, pay the price and get a very small, probably underrepresented property, something that doesn't have a lot and pay a lot for it, or get a little bit more and pay a lot less and get a little bit further away. So that's really where we go, John. It's just, it's still awesome. It's just, some people prefer it. Some people prefer to be a little bit further away from us here, as I say, in the epicenter. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And when I think back to my decade that I spent there, is that, I had a combination of living walking distance to the South Boulder Rec Center for like 3 years and a couple years of being walking distance to the East Boulder Rec Center. That was the first house that I owned, which was right across the street from Fraser Meadows. And so I was right there in South Boulder. And but then bought a property in Longmont. Had a property in Longmont for a couple of years, and then finally ended up with a house that I owned, walking distance to the historic downtown area of Niwot. And so I was in unincorporated, Boulder County in Niwot. At that time, I actually owned a health club, so I owned and ran a fitness center and health club in Niwot called Niwot Health and Fitness, and that was around for 3 or 4 years. And so that all predated me pulling up stakes and moving to Hawaii for 10 years. But so I think about that, and it's like, I had a little bit of everything. I was in the Boulder City area incorporated, as well as Boulder County unincorporated. But all that time feeling like I've got access to all these very, very special, as I like to call them, activity amenities or active towns, activity assets that really are super, super beloved by us. All the trails, all the pathways, the access to the quieter country roads where you can get a long bike ride in. And I think that's part of what really does make Boulder City as well as Boulder County really incredibly attractive for people wanting to have an active lifestyle.
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned Niwot. We're huge fans of Niwot, but you've said it. Each of those has everything. They have the same, like if you look at what is awesome about active Boulder, well, rec centers, guess what? They have a amazing YMCA in Lafayette that most of our professional athletes are training at now. Julie Dibbins' crew, they go to Lafayette. So if you're there, boom, you got it covered. Siri Lindley, when she was coaching back in, most recently before she moved, she was coaching at the Longmont rec center in the pool there outside. And then, so it's like, okay, you got that covered. What about trails? What about paths, crushed gravel, running on those? Niwot has some of the best loops around to run on gravel bike on. Right. And then I think Coal Creek Trail is again in Lafayette. It connects Louisville and all the trails, Davidson Mesa, they're outside of Louisville. If you go to Superior, you've got some of my favorite running trails there. And so I think that realistically, when you look at active towns, those towns are absolutely killing it every bit as much as Boulder is. And so the difference is if you want to walk, as you said, to Pearl Street versus walking to South Public Road in Lafayette or Main Street in Louisville or Front Street in Louisville, if you want to walk to Pearl Street, or if you want to have Sanitas out your door, jog out the door up Mount Sanitas, then you have to be in Boulder. But realistically, there's no loss, right? It's just a difference as you move to those communities, I think.
Yeah. Shifting gears back to your podcast, I've just been absolutely enjoying, listening to the podcast. I tend to listen to podcasts when I'm walking around in my neighborhood here, when I'm trying to get away from editing videos and podcasts. And I love the mixture of folks that you have on here. Obviously, you've got David Roach, who recently just had a breakout season, running running, doing ultra running, both at Leadville and the Javelina 100. And then you also had Megan on as well. You guys talked a little bit about the story and how you guys, know them so well. And of course, I think they're literally next door neighbors, right?
They are.
Fantastic. Talk a little bit about your guests on the podcast and how the idea comes up and what you're really trying to tease out in this discussion about the love affair that is loving where you live in Boulder County.
Yes, I know. And you know what? When we came up with the idea to do the show like we do it, it was, hey, I really want this to be about Boulder. You know what I mean? That's why it's called Love Where You Live. Like we really want to showcase this Boulder County, this Boulder Valley. And so and also, like with yours, active towns, like it's people, because the town's not speaking for itself. And so what's cool is you've got this overarching, theme of Boulder Valley, but the conversation opportunities are limitless, right? You have no end in sight to who you could talk to. So we sort of went with that. And initially, when I first thought of, hey, let's get going, I wrote a list of about 20 people. And then it was like, okay, well, with each conversation, I have John on there, and John says someone's name, and I'm like, gosh, I got to write that down. Please introduce us. So that was really fun. And I've had people say, you've got to interview X, Y, and Z. This person would be perfect. And that's magical, right? To connect and meet new people. I love that and hear stories. And so for me, that's been like just really, really neat. And I think at first I did also look at it, John, and be like, wait a second. I don't want to invite someone that doesn't have an Olympic resume or a world championship or a master sommelier or any of these accolades. And I didn't want them to come and feel inferior or out of place or like they don't fit in. I wanted everyone to feel like, do you live here? Do I like you? Or do you like Boulder? Then check. Come on. And so, so I made this effort to not have too many, but if you look through the list, there's still a lot of world-class athletes on there. And it is still my tribe. It is still the people. Like I have a whole host of people that have said yes, no, or maybe that are still on that accolade. That short list of Olympians and world champions and the Ironman title. And so all this to say, I love it. I love talking about these. And our format, for those of you that haven't heard it, is grab someone like David Roche and say, look, where did you grow up? What brought you to Boulder? What are you doing in Boulder? What do you like about Boulder? What do you dislike? Boom. And so you can really, and it's a little bit of a outline, but if we don't go down that outline, I'm happy to just learn about you and how you interact with Boulder. Hope that makes sense.
No, it totally does. And again, I'm scrolling through the list of them right now, and I'm like, oh, wait. In fact, let's pull this up so we can actually look at it both together. I'm scrolling through this, and I'm like, oh, I know this person. I know this person. Oh, yeah, Mark Plotchis. That's my physical therapist. And oh, by the way,
that's right.
he was also a world champion marathoner as well. You got Rennie there. I mean, it's so much fun. Oh, and Trini Willerton. Trini is, of course, the founder of It Could Be Me. I serve on the board of directors for It Could Be Me as a nonprofit, trying to work hard. She's just doing an amazing job working hard at trying to create safer streets and roads for everybody around the country. Really fabulous stuff, and it's really a delightful listen to be able to kind of hear the stories. And every single time I tune into one, even though I may know Aaron Carson, I've known Aaron for many years, I'll listen to it and I'll learn something new, and that's the wonderful thing about this type of format is you end up learning something new every single time.
Yeah. You know what? And I love like Aaron Carson. One of the things that was so cool about Aaron Carson too was she said it in a way that I felt like was really beautiful, because a lot of people come and, Austin suffers from this greatly, where people say, well, it's all these outsiders and all this change and all this growth and all this progress. And people will say that about Boulder. Oh, well, now it's, it's not like it used to be, and they have all the adjectives and all the, negative connotations to this person moving here or that happening and this, and I can't get around, on and on. And I think that instead of that, what Aaron, at least what I took away from Aaron's thought was just that, when you look at all these people, like most everybody that's here in Boulder, to some extent or another, worked very hard to be here, be it to scrape the money together to stay, or to earn the money to be able to afford it, or to be world class, or to work in the industry. It's like, it's just a really nice way if you just look at it and say, we all worked hard to be here, however that looks to you. And just, we all got here, and it is someone like Erin who came here as a college student, right? And now she's on whatever chapter she is that she's gone through. We all have that in life, and I think it's a really nice way to look at your town and not get beat up about how much change, negative or positive, that it's been through. So to me, that was really special.
So again, you're scrolling through and we're looking at the list of characters, and some of them are literally at the top of their career right now, athletically and other types of career paths, and then others are classics. When you look back to like that first list of like 20 people, is there a white whale that you haven't got that you'd just love to get this person on but it just hasn't happened yet?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm still waiting. There's a bunch of people that aren't on yet that said, but and some of them had said maybe, and no one's really said no yet. But actions, it's like with me, John. You could have said I said no because I took months to get on, so my actions were saying no. And so people say no. They say yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me know. But I still want to talk to Julie Dibbins because I think Julie Dibbins has a great story, both her upbringing and her movement to Boulder. Rachel Joyce has said, yes, these are good triathletes. I'm going in she's another, just an incredible individual. They're both so fun and well-rounded. But on that athlete vein, there's a guy called Ivan O'Gorman, lives in Niwot. He's a bike fitter to a lot of world class athletes, but his story is from Ireland. I love people that moved here from other countries. They're such fascinating, it's a major change. I've got a handful of others. John McElveen, this is a name not many people know unless you're living in town. He's been a real estate agent in town since the 80s, and you'll get this one, his claim to fame early on. He was a body double for Robin Williams when Mork
really?
Mork and Mindy was filmed here.
Yeah.
He was on his way to California trying to do something out there and got stuck in Boulder due to Chief Niwot. But like that's another one that he's on my list, and he's worried. He's like, but you have all these people. He's sort of, and I said, but John, you're awesome. Like your stories are every bit as good and every bit as fascinating as Emma Coburn's on the list, Kara Goucher. My daughter's swim coach is on there. She was, they have some good athletic ability. The list is lengthy. I have here in about an hour, I've got another Olympian coming on. She's from Australia, Sophie Lynn. So lots of fun stuff is coming up, John. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? You can put anyone out there. If you have an introduction or someone you want to hear on,
yeah.
I'll take your recommendation.
I'm still working on Ryan Van Duzer. I know that you want to get him on. You interviewed Dana, who's one of his very best friends, and I put the bug in his ear, so he's mulling it over and thinking about it.
I think he's busy. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's funny because we do have so many good friends, and Dana, of course, is one of his best. And I pinged him recently again. I told Dana, I said, Dana, just like we'll have some fun. This guy, what's funny was he should make him listen to this. I was where the heck was I? I was recently at, oh my gosh, I was in Steamboat on spring break with my kids. My whole family was there. And I'm standing there on the outside of the place where we're staying, with my friend's place. And a guy and his wife comes walking by, and they're like going for a little run in a little bit, and they're walking. And we just start chatting because that's what me and my friend Peter do. We chat. So we're chatting with this guy. And he's like, oh, where do you guys live? Boulder. Oh, really? Do you know Ryan Van Duzer? And I'm like, huh? I was like, what? Sure. I mean, not really, but yeah, like, of course. And he goes, well, I live in Michigan, and I've been following him, and I love his stuff. And he's like, I think, and I'm like, well, that's a sign right there. I got some random stranger. And he goes, you remind me of him. I said, well, I don't know about that. I said, this guy's got he's got a pretty awesome everything, right? Like all his vibe, the stuff he does for the community, the videos, the travels, the biking, this everything he does is incredible. And he's got just a very, to me, very positive and great energy. So I was like, well, that's a compliment, but get him in there, John. Line
I'm
him
going
up.
to get it.
Sign him up.
I'm working on him. I'm working on him. And I will say this, he recently just released a mini documentary about his life and his time growing up in Boulder and all that. So we'll put some pressure on him. We'll make that happen.
Yeah,
for sure.
And you know what? Tell him he can get a couple dozen fresh eggs. I can buy them from my daughter, who's in charge of the business. You pay him in organic farm fresh eggs from the back.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he's vegetarian, but I think he does eat eggs. So yeah, that's good to know.
I've eaten a lot. Yeah,
fantastic.
Either way,
it's
no
good
pressure.
Michael,
Yes.
Is there anything that we haven't yet discussed that you want to make sure to leave the audience with, either about Michael Lovato, the business, the podcast, anything at all?
I mean, that's a good question, but I don't think so. I hope it's evident that I love our community. I love being involved in the community. I love sharing it with everyone. If you ever see me around, either online, Instagram, website, YouTube, Facebook, or walking down the street, please say hi. I absolutely love to connect with people virtually or otherwise. Like it's a lot of fun for me. So please reach out. That's what I think really, I think I'm a true extrovert in that way, in that, how I gain energy by being around people, and a lot of people, they get drained. So I'm happy I always have time for you. So please just know that. And otherwise, yeah, if you're, come check out our town. And if you know anyone that I should know on my podcast or in business or in sport, please share their name with me. I'd love to grow the relationships.
Fantastic. I love it. And again, that is lovatoproperties.com. Pop on over. Also head on over to the YouTube channels for the videos that you're producing about the city, as well as the other, the Lovato Properties page, so that you can do some deep dives on some of the listings. Check them both out and be sure to subscribe. Michael Lovato, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining me on the Active Towns podcast.
Of course. Thank you, John. Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Hey, thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Michael Lovato. And if you did, please, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and share it with a friend. And if you haven't done so already, be honored to have you subscribe to the channel. Just click on the subscription button down below and be sure to ring that notifications bell. And again, if you're enjoying this content here on the Active Towns channel, please consider supporting my efforts by becoming an Active Towns ambassador. Super easy to do. You can just click on the join button right here on YouTube, as well as navigate over to activetowns.org. Click on the support tab at the top of the page, and there's several different options, including making a donation to the nonprofit, becoming a Patreon supporter, and patrons do get early and ad-free access to all the video content. And again, thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. And until next time, this is John signing off by wishing you much activity, health, and happiness. Cheers. And again, just want to send a huge thank you to all my Active Towns ambassadors supporting the channel financially via YouTube memberships, YouTube super thanks, as well as making contributions to the nonprofit and joining my Patreon. Every little bit adds up and is very much appreciated. Thank you all so much.